All right, well, thank you everyone for joining so far. We'll give it just a minute or so more to allow folks to jump on. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll get started in just a minute or so. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and I guess still good morning to those of you on the West Coast, and welcome to Doing Business with NASA, the Artemis Program. My name is Jack Morgan, Program Manager for NACo's Resilient Economies and Communities Program team within our County Futures Lab department here at NACo. I serve as one of your moderators today, and excited for this learning opportunity and discussion. As counties across the country, urban, suburban, rural, are seeking new opportunities, particularly during this pretty uncertain and challenging time, hearing new opportunities from a major partner such as NASA is incredibly valuable. We're really excited to continue this webinar programming series with NASA. As many of you might remember or attended our webinar back in September. This is the second installment of our interactive discussion series. September's webinar, if you missed it, was recorded, and you can access that for future viewing at the new NACo Knowledge Network, as is the case for today's webinar, as well as our other past and upcoming virtual educational programming. That's at naco.org/education-events. Before we dive in, just a quick note or two as well. We do ask that attendees please keep their microphones muted throughout this meeting, but certainly want to encourage interaction, and please feel free to submit questions through the chat box at any time, located by clicking the chat icon on your screen. So I'd certainly like to also take the time now to thank my co-moderator, Christopher Blair, NASA External Relations Specialist, has been a great partner in liaising and coordinating with these past two webinars. So without further ado, I'm pleased to kick it over to you, Christopher, for some further introduction and stage setting as we dive into this session and discuss NASA's Artemis program. Take it away, Christopher.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jack. And thanks to each of you joining us. Give everyone a chance for the microphones. Thank you. So as Jack mentioned, following today's NASA presentation, you'll have a chance to use the chat functionality to ask questions to our guest NASA presenter. But in the meantime, please feel free to introduce yourself and say hello. And to serve you better, I've also included my email address in the chat window. Please feel free to contact me following today's event with any questions and let us know how we can assist you in the future. Now, NASA is proud to participate in today's event. This is our third virtual event with NACo this year. We began this beneficial relationship back in 2017, and we're very excited to continue with today's Artemis webinar. So right now, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Trey Cate, the Deputy Manager of Strategic Communications for NASA's Space Launch System program. Trey leads a skilled communications team sharing all the latest information about the Space Launch System. I will now mute my microphone and camera. Please begin your presentation, Trey, whenever you're ready.
So, Chris, I'm hoping you have it on your desk because I do not have it. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Trey, Cate. I'm the Deputy Manager for Strategic Communication for America's next great ship, the Space Launch System. Here to give you a quick update on where we stand with our nation's human deep space exploration operations. And here we go.
50 years ago, we went to the moon. We called it Apollo.
What many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis, goddess of the moon.
We are returning to the moon
As a new generation of explorers.
This time to stay.
And to prepare to achieve humanity's next giant leap of sending the first human missions to Mars.
We believe our course will redefine what is possible.
That we would discover life-saving,
earth-changing science.
And that the challenges ahead will inspire generations.
This is our manifest.
For all who wonder if we could return.
For all who dreamed of pressing beyond.
This is your calling.
We go for all of America.
We go. We go as the Artemis generation.
We go.
So in December 2017, the president issued Space Policy Directive 1, charging NASA to go back to the moon, do it sustainably with our international partners, and he said do it by 2028. 4 months later, in March, the vice president came to Huntsville, Alabama, and said, remember when we told you 2028? We were just kidding. You will put the first woman and the next man on the South Pole of the moon by 2024, and you will use all means necessary. So with that, NASA created the Artemis Program, which is anything to do with going back to the moon and establishing a presence on the moon where we can learn to live and work in deep space with the ultimate goal of going to Mars. To do that, we create a launch system and the Orion spacecraft. They are together the only vehicle that can safely get humans to the moon in one lift. It is a national capability. It is our nation's capability to explore deep space. 3,800 suppliers, 60,000 workers, every state is involved in the effort to get us to the moon, back to the moon for the first time in over 50 years, and then to have us stay there to learn how to live and work in deep space. As I mentioned, it's a nationwide team. Just SLS has over 1,100 contractors in 45 states, $5.5 billion economic impact, and we've created over 28,000 jobs. We've raised the aerospace industry base, engaging it in manufacturing, advanced technologies, everything you can imagine over the last 8 years. Building this rocket has had an incredible impact on our aerospace industry. Now you may think, what's that got to do with me? Since we are in all 50 states with both Orion, SLS, and EGS, there's a good chance that you have somebody in your county working to help human exploration operations for NASA. And if you want to check it out, you can go to our ESD Suppliers Map and click on your state, and it'll tell you how many companies you have and show you where they're located. So there probably is a good chance that you have somebody either in your county or nearby who's helping human deep space exploration efforts. The rocket itself is 322.4 feet tall. The first version, which is already built, is the one there to the left. It has 8.8 million pounds of thrust, and you can see it comes in both a human version and a cargo version to help get over 27 tons to the surface of the moon. We've designed this system to be evolvable, so as we go through time, the first 3 flights will be on Block 1 to the surface of the moon, which will allow us to take both astronauts and a co-manifested payload, such as a habitat, to the moon at the same time. But it also has an enormous volume for cargo. And then as we progress further, flights 8 and 9 of the rocket will transition to Block 2, which will give us over 46 tons of capability to get to the moon. So the rocket's been built to be evolvable. We've already built the first 2 rockets, as I'll go through and show you. And while we're doing that, we're working on the 3rd and preparing for future for the 4th generation. What makes SLS unique? One is the volume. I mentioned that just briefly. We have double the volume of any vehicle flying right now. Our planetary scientists are absolutely a giggle because they no longer have to fold up spacecraft into origami to fit in small fairings. And once we get to Block 1B, it'll be the only vehicle that can launch both humans and a payload at the same time. So think about astronauts having their own place to live being carried with them. Mass is our other differentiation. We have more than 70% more capability than any vehicle currently out there on the market. And once we get to Block 2, 46 tons to the moon is an amazing amount of stuff to get off the Earth and over 250,000 miles away. And another big differentiation issue for us is departure energy. Since the vehicle has over 8.8 million pounds of thrust, it can go straight to where it needs to go. And a good explanation of this would be, we've been told to go to Europa to search for life, which is the icy moon of Jupiter. Any other vehicle in the world today would take at least 6.5 to 7 years to get there, because they have to go around Venus 6 times to pick up enough speed to be thrown to the outer planets. With SLS, it's a direct shot, and we're there in 2.5 years. So by 2026, not only will we be living and working on the moon, but we should know whether or not we're alone in our solar system. Now here's the rocket from top to bottom. We start out at the bottom with 4 RS-25 engines, the Ferrari of rocket engines. We have 16 of those on hand, built by Aerojet Rocketdyne, and we've also restarted the entire supply chain to build new ones, and we're building 8 new ones as we speak, with follow-on contracts for 24 more after that. On the side of the rocket, you see the solid rocket boosters. They look a lot like the shuttle boosters, but instead of 4 segments, they have 5. They're 3.6 million pounds of thrust each, and they burn an incredible 5.5 tons of propellant per second. Yep, that's right, I said per second. In the middle there is the core stage avionics, and avionics built by Boeing. That is a truly new development. It is the largest rocket stage ever built. It holds the liquid hydrogen tank and the liquid oxygen tank and the inner tank, forward skirt, and engine section, and 212 feet tall and holds over 733,000 gallons of propellant. Above that, moving up the rocket, we have the launch vehicle stage adapter built right here at Marshall Space Flight Center, which connects the in-space engine to the rocket, which is the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, the ICPS, and that's built by Boeing and United Launch Alliance. And then we have the Orion stage adapter, which helps Orion connect to the top of the vehicle. And that was built right here by NASA at Marshall Space Flight Center. And at the top of the rocket, we have the Orion multi-purpose crew vehicle, made up of its pieces and parts, and that's made by Lockheed Martin. So because this rocket is designed to fly humans, and that's a key factor, this rocket is human rated and will be human rated when astronauts fly on it. We had to conduct the largest structural testing campaign since Apollo to make sure that this is as safe as humanly possible for our astronauts to ride to deep space. The upper left there, you can see we took the liquid oxygen tank to structural failure. It took over 2.5 times the expected loads before it burst. Below that, you'll see the liquid hydrogen tank bursting. And interesting, just a neat little fact is you can see the white square. Our engineers predicted that it would burst 2 feet away from that. It burst 2 feet 6 inches away from that. And you look how thin the walls are on that tank. If you can imagine in your mind a 212 foot tall Coke can, the walls on this vehicle are thinner than a Coke can. Then middle top, we have our avionics testing. The RS-25 on the top right, and then down at the bottom would be the qualification motor firing for our solid rocket booster out in Promontory, Utah, where we shook the desert twice, making sure that these were ready to go. And then the middle picture there is the core stage being put into the B2 test down at Stennis, where we're doing what's called green run testing on the entire stage. The flight article before we fly. So where are we with progress on the rocket? The boosters are done. They are at the Cape waiting for us. That is the actual aft segment of the flight article. You can see how big it is compared to those guys standing there. That's one of 5 segments. That is at the Cape waiting for us. All 10 segments are there. All the hardware is ready. And in fact, we will start stacking it in the VAB at the end of November. The ICPS is complete. The Orion stage adapter is complete. And you can see the little trays on the inside there. Those are designed to carry CubeSats. And we'll be taking 13 CubeSats with us on our first flight, which can go out into deep space and do science for pennies on the dollar. In the middle, we have the launch vehicle stage adapter, and that's it going on to the Pegasus barge as it we. And this is the core stage down at Stennis, and that's the B2 test stand where we'll conduct all 8 tests of the Green Run testing program. Being lifted into the stand, had to do it at night because the winds were down less. And funny fact, winds do blow faster at 300 feet than they do down at the ground. So this is the flight article that we had to put inside the B2 test stand. And it's just amazing the close fit that it took and how much modifications we had to do to the test stand to get the rocket in there. And the reason we do this, and every vehicle we've ever flown, we've done a hot fire test of the stage before we've flown it, but we've never done it with the actual flight article. So this is the flight article, and we are doing Green Run testing on it, and it's going extremely well down at Stennis Space Center right now to make sure that all the avionics, all the pipes, the plumbing, the 52 miles of cryogenic tubing, all the wire harnesses, everything is connected and working right. And the Green Run is itself composed of 8 tests, of which we've successfully completed 6 to this point. We've shaken it, we've turned it on, we've checked out all the software. We have simulated countdown, simulated issues with the engines. We've tested the main propulsion system to make sure there's no major leaks. We've done the thrust vector control, which gimbals the engine and moves them around. And we've done a launch countdown all the way to T-0 to make sure that everything works. The next 2 tests we have are the 2 critical ones. Test number 7, which should happen the first week of December. We will actually load cryogenics into the vehicle, the 700,000 plus gallons of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and then test that flow and make sure that all the pipes and plumbing are working the way they're supposed to. We'll then offload it, check the vehicle for safety once again, and then for test 8, we'll reload it and go all the way down to a hot fire where we will fire all 4 RS-25 engines for 8 minutes. We want to test as we fly to make sure that this vehicle is safe and can do the job that we built it to do. And it's an amazing feat because when you, believe it or not, when you add cryogenics to it, the vehicle shrinks 6 inches. Engineer something that's going to shrink when you put cold fluids into it. But we're there now. Test 7 should happen the first week in December, and test 8, hopefully we'll get a Christmas present down there at Stennis, and we should do that around the 20th of December if everything goes right. We'll then pull the vehicle out, put it in Pegasus, and send it down to KSC to stack the rest of the vehicle to get ready for our first flight, which is called Artemis One. We're getting ready for our first flight for Artemis One. We've built that rocket, we're testing it, and now all we got to do is put it together. But at the same time that we've done that, we've also built all the pieces and parts for the second flight. So the OSA, the forward skirt, the liquid oxygen tank, liquid hydrogen tank, inner tank are all done. They're fabricated. And now if you want to put it in terms of building a house, the sticks are up, the roofs are on, the windows are in, but now we need to go in and do the plumbing and put it all together. We also have the RS-25 engines ready to go and done, and all the booster motor segments for that flight have already been poured, and they're waiting for us. They're in storage out in Promontory, Utah. So flight 1 is complete and we're testing it. The second flight is already manufactured and now we're putting it together, and it'll be done by the end of next year and ready for flight. But while we're doing that as well, we're also working on Artemis 3 and beyond. So Artemis 1 will be our test flight around the moon. Will be a test flight with humans around the moon, and then Artemis 3 will be landing on the South Pole. So we're already building Artemis 3. They're the 4 RL-10 engines you can see in the upper left there that are going to fly as part of the exploration upper stage, the EUS, which is a more powerful in-space stage. We've been building parts of the universal stage adapter that will help carry the astronauts and the cargo at the same time. And we've, as I mentioned, we've restarted the line on the RS-25 engines and doing a lot of 3D printing and additively manufactured parts. That part he's pointing to there is called a pogo accumulator that was additively manufactured. In the past, it would have taken 9 months, $600,000 to build. That pogo accumulator being 3D printed took about 3 weeks and cost $20,000. And it's already been tested and it will go on the next generation engines. So 1 is done, 2 is all manufactured, and 3 is underway for the Artemis missions. And we're also working with our partners along the way. The Orion spacecraft that you can see there, it is already at the Cate. That is it, stacked atop the European service module, is waiting for us to come down. And in fact, it'll be transferred over to the ground handling folks to take it to the fueling center the first week of December. Orion's been through all their testing. That's a picture of them doing their underway recovery tests off the coast of California, working with the Navy to make sure we can safely get the spacecraft and the astronauts back home. And then the bottom right picture, it was a test of the launch abort system, which is the pointy thing at the top of the rocket. It's actually a solid rocket booster itself, and it's designed to grab Orion and pull the astronauts and the capsule to safety in the event something happens either on the pad, in flight, or in space. At the same time, we've also been working with our friends down at the Cape, the Exploration Ground Systems. That is a brand new launch control center right there. You can see the view from the launch director, Charlie Blackwell Thompson. She will be the launch director for our first flight. And on the right, we've had to completely redo the mobile launcher and the crawler to make sure that they can handle the weight of the 5.75 million pound rocket when it's fully fueled and ready to fly. And then the crawler has to be able to pick that plus the tower up and take it out to the pad. So they've done an amazing amount of work down at Kennedy as well. And now we're at the part where we put all 3 systems together, getting ready for our first flight in these exciting times. And the first flight will be Artemis 1. As I mentioned, we'll go up into a low Earth orbit, then we'll do a perigee raised burn to get higher and faster. And then when we get to that point at around where you see the number 6 there, we'll do a translunar injection burn and push Orion on its way out to the moon. At the same time, the in-space stage will continue on its way, and it'll release its little payloads, the CubeSats, along the way as it goes out and around the moon for heliocentric disposal. But Orion will go out and get caught by the gravity of the moon and then tossed out where you see the number 10 to what we call a distant retrograde orbit. It'll be the furthest any human-rated spacecraft has ever been, and it will stay out there about 75,000 kilometers on the backside of the moon, and it'll test communications, navigations, it'll do some maneuvers. We'll have 3 humanikins aboard. Helga and Zohar will be 2 humanikins. One will be wearing a vest designed to protect our astronauts from deep space radiation, and then we'll also have the commander mannequin, who we have yet to name. He or she will also be on board out there while it's in its distant retrograde orbit, testing the safety of the capsule. So after about 20 days in that distant retrograde orbit, it's going to come back in, get captured by the gravity of the moon again, do a powered flyby, and then work its way home to where the most important test, number 17, you see there, will be landing off the coast of California. And that's where we have to test the heat shield of Orion to make sure it can withstand coming in at such 5,500 miles per hour. You got to remember this International Space Station is only about 250 miles up. So coming home from the space station is a lot different than coming home from 250,000 miles away, 1,000 times further and a lot faster. So we need to make sure that that heat shield is working. But that is what we're doing for Artemis One. It's happening. It's happening next year. It's going to be exciting to see the most powerful thing in the world leave the Earth and go out and begin the first steps of exploring deep space and learning how to live and work on the moon so we can eventually become an interplanetary species and set boots on the ground on Mars in early 2030. And that's a quick update on the Artemis program. And I get asked all the time, what can I do? What can I do? And I tell folks, well, you can give me $1 million and get a truckle or two. But the truth is, if you gave us $1 million, we'd spend it in a day. However, if you gave us 1 million voices and you are part of the actively participating in our nation's human deep space exploration, then hopefully we can capture the imaginations of the next generation and see how this rocket will absolutely change the future for all of us. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to meeting you virtually in person.
All right, great. Thanks, Trey. We appreciate, as always, your enthusiasm. Give me just 1 second here. All right, awesome. So yeah, wonderful, Trey, as always. And as a reminder for everybody joining us, we will have a Q&A session with Trey Cate following our next segment. Please use the chat function to ask your questions. It is now my privilege to introduce our next speaker, Commissioner Stan Summers of Box Elder County, Utah. Commissioner Summers was born and raised in Box Elder County. He was recently elected to his 3rd consecutive term as commissioner and has served as chairperson in the past. Mr. Summers will also serve as a president of the Utah Association of Counties for this upcoming year and served as chair of the Bear River Associate of Government. He holds 5 patents in Northrop Grumman, is a published author, and has friends in high places. Literally, we mean that as he enjoys a personal friendship with NASA astronaut Captain Scott Tingle, flight engineer for Expedition 5455 to the International Space Station. I want to thank Commissioner Summers for joining us. I will now mute my microphone, turn off my camera. Commissioner Summers, please begin your presentation when you are ready.
Well, after watching that presentation, I'm just going to say ditto. I'm giddy just at the information you've shipped that. I got hired on out to Northrop Grumman, well, NACo back in the day after the shuttle blew up, not knowing what my future was going to be. And I lasted about 6.5 years out to NACo, testing O-rings and doing things like you're talking about with space exploration, where I got to meet my friend, Lieutenant Commander Scott Maker Tingle. And we've stayed good friends since then. I think because we look to the future for the things that, with all the progress we're doing, one thing that I think brought us together was our knowledge that there's always something out there that's better. And in my time of being a commissioner, we've been talking about doing some of these things that when I was growing up was we looked at the Jetsons of the things that were happening as a cartoon. And now those things that the Jetsons were doing as a cartoon we're actually doing. So, you know, we've interacted a bunch of things with our STEM in our area. We're the largest manufacturing per capita west of the Mississippi in Box Elder County. We've got things like Procter & Gamble, Nucor Building Systems. We have Autoleave that was a spinoff of NACo. We've got all these things here, but we also have, if you looked at that map that the president was doing before, it says Northrop Grumman in a little line, and that little line puts you right to Promontory, Utah, which is in Box Elder County in the northern part of Utah. I live about 15 miles from that facility that's 35,000 acres. And when you saw that rocket booster on the side blowing or testing, I was actually at that test with Charlie Precourt and the rest of Northrop Grumman cheering it on. because we thought the days of solid rocket motors were gone. So we're excited about all those things. We are actually doing a innovation initiative focusing on advanced manufacturing from aerospace and defense, capital accessibility, helping capital expertise connect with promising technologies. Some of the things that we've been doing down at the Atwood Innovation Plaza at Dixie State in southern Utah. So it's kind of a total state mission to try to get some of this stuff happening where we're looking at autonomous vehicles. We have a water bottling company, Niagara, that does 2 million bottles of water a day. And they're almost a blackout facility because all of their things are autonomous. They don't have one forklift driver in their plant. So we've got to be able to get this technology out to kids. Our Boys and Girls Club does an amazing job with the STEM program. They bring 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th graders into the STEM program, and they show what happens when you put pressure to a tennis ball and throw it 500 yards upstream. So we're looking at the future a lot in this area. We've got EDA projects that are helping us do these things. Something that maybe if you need to reach out to me, these guys have my email address and I can put you in touch with some of the things that are happening. But we have great partners with Northrop Grumman. We've started a drone program out there that will be able to help take packages to and from things from, like Amazon, which we're all living through now, because Northrop Grumman's such a great partner in our county and we appreciate everything that they've done. And Charlie Precourt, was a astronaut when I actually worked at NACo, and he was coming off the space station. And I love the interaction with him and my buddy Scott Tingle to be able to listen to those two talk about where we've come and where we're going to go. So honestly, I guess I feel blessed to be able to know that we are in this arena now. When I was first elected almost 8 years ago, almost half of Northrop Grumman was mothballed. So not only on a personal standpoint, but on a county standpoint, we lost a lot of revenue. And now they've opened up and unmothballed that facility, what used to be called Plant 78, to do a bunch of these types of materials. And it's amazing to see how many people come out there and watch these 5-segment things be blasted off. And if you haven't had a chance to be there, you ought to maybe just make the trek out here to Box Elder County and come see one of those testings, because it's pretty amazing to think that in my lifetime we'll be able to see people living on the moon and headed to Mars. So if we can help them do these things in high schools, middle schools, and alternative schools to get these degrees that they have to come help this, we need engineers and we need good people to work on these programs. So if you're thinking about moving, Northern Utah is the place to be. We have, Hill Air Force Base. It's just down the road, and they're growing also. I mean, I'm hate to put a big plug for you guys to come out this way, but the scenery's beautiful and the air's clean. So I think that would do for me, and I'll stick around if anybody's got any questions, or else I can put up my email address and cell phone number if you'd like to have that. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Summers. We truly appreciate your time joining us today. So as mentioned, at this time, I'd like to bring back Trey, Cate to join us and answer a few questions. As a reminder, now's the time. If you do have a question, please type it in the chat section. In the meantime, we have a couple that were pre-submitted questions we can use to begin. So Trey, as you join us, it's an exciting time for aerospace exploration and innovation, especially as you learn and discuss what is good for space is also good for our nation, states, and counties. So in terms of local industry, small business, and workforce, one question we had was, can small companies bid on work alone, or do they need to partner with larger companies?
The answer is both, Chris. So every field center, such as Marshall Space Flight Center, Langley, Ames, Kennedy, has an Office of Small Business. And they do their own work on the center, which is separate from the programs. So if you go to Marshall Space Flight Center small business page, it lays out a 10-step procedure for small businesses to get work at Marshall. However, if you want to work on a specific system, such as the Space Launch System, a major program, one of the flagship programs for the agency, you'd have to work with our primes and be a part of their small business program, because they all have small business guidelines that they have to meet as well. So that'd be Boeing, Aerojet, Northrop Grumman, Teledyne Brown, and Dynetics for SLS specifically. And then if you wanted to work on Orion, you could get with Lockheed Martin. So the answer is both, Chris, and I think it's wonderful that the counties are involved. And what we've done in the past, and unfortunately, because of the situation with COVID right now, we're not doing in person, but we would go, and some of this was a result with working with NACo, to go to different counties and bring an astronaut with us and go thank the supplier, and then go to all the schools around that supplier to try to educate and get the kids inspired in the next generation, so they can get the right degrees and the right focus on what they want to do with their life, and hopefully be inspired to go out. So we really look to the counties and the grassroots to keep this system going.
Okay, so staying on that topic then, in terms of prepping the next generation of scientists, explorers, astronauts, what are some types of resources that are available for schools to ensure that students are, not only receiving, next gen technology skills and capabilities and instruction, but to remain excited and knowledgeable about the space program?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. If you go to our website, www.nasa.gov/SLS, there is a whole page dedicated to educators that they can pull. There's hands-on activities, there's lessons plans, there's everything a teacher could possibly want if they want to have a science segment or a space segment, and that is just at Marshall Space Flight Center. And if you go to NASA headquarters, they even have a larger resource that teachers and parents can use to get kids excited in the future of space and what we're doing. And I firmly believe that this rocket is going to change a lot about what we know about our world. It is going to create an economy around the moon within the next 5 to 10 years, and it will enable us to become an interplanetary species, because eventually, much like what has happened in low Earth orbit, remember, we were in low Earth orbit for 35 years, NASA was, and made the decision to turn low Earth orbit over to the commercial companies so they can make some money and also create an industry in low Earth orbit, and that is happening. And we fully expect that to happen at the moon. We will have our partners taking cargo to the moon as part of the Artemis program, and eventually when they catch up or probably surpass us in sometime in the future, they'll be carrying humans to the moon while we go to Mars. So it's just absolutely exciting time right now to be in the space business. And it's amazing that if you have a child that was born after, say, May of 2000, there's been humans living and working in space continuously for 24 hours a day for the last, since then, for 17 years. And we just put a new crew aboard the space station. Was it yesterday they docked? Which was the first operational flight of the Crew Dragon going up to the space station. So now we've got a big contingent up there. I think we're at 6 astronauts up there right now, which allows for new science to go on. If you think about how the space station evolved, when it first was put together, the astronauts would spend 8 to 10 hours a day fixing things, and then they would spend 4 hours exercising to try to figure out how to live and work in deep space, and then they would sleep. But now, because technology has gone so much more, we're spending 6 hours on science in microgravity, an hour or 2 on maintenance, and then sleep. And exercise, they exercise 2 hours a day now to keep themselves alive. So it's an interesting how this all goes forward, and we're I'd say we're at the height of the wave right now, and it's just going to just take off. So.
Hey, Jack, I see you online. Do you have a question you'd like to ask by chance?
We're not seeing any come in to the chat, so I'll remind folks to do that. I will posit a question out to Commissioner Summers if you're still on and able to answer this question, Commissioner. I know you mentioned EDA, and I know you guys had a big announcement out there recently about opportunity zones. Do you see that playing a role in how you can take advantage of opportunity zones for this particular advanced manufacturing STEM, and how that will assist NASA as well?
Actually, yeah, I do. That's kind of part of the reason that I think that they came up in Box Elder County and announced it. So I came up with an idea, and I guess I could announce it now, but we're going to work with Senator Lee and Senator Romney's office to maybe do an opportunity zone for intellectual properties, to hopefully that people can put their tax money into work on these type of things, to where they can actually start putting money into all these intellectual properties and get a tax breaks, and it just doesn't even have to be like property. So I would hope that we can get something through on that, and we can continue to fund the things that have to happen, because teaching kids takes money, and being able to get this stuff through the systems, through the high schools, it takes a lot of time and money also. And where he just said from 2000 on, we've had somebody in space, and I can remember back when I graduated from high school and got the job at NACo, 2000 was so far out. Now here we are 20 years later, and I joke about the things that I've seen in my lifetime, but we're gonna go to the moon, stay on the moon. I just watched Enterprise last night on TV and thought, how cool is this that we're imitating these things, but we have to have the engineers, the students, the workers, and everybody involved to be able to do that. And it takes time, money, and people to get this stuff accomplished. And this is basically what's happening here. And if you'd like to be able to do what we're doing, reach out, and we'll figure out a way to help you in any way we can. So we've got some great partners at UAC, that's the Utah Association of Counties, some great partners at NACo with you guys. And then I'm actually on the board of NATO, which is the National Association of Developmental Organizations, that helps with the ADA projects and all of your AOGs throughout the nation. That's a big shout out to those guys that are doing this kind of work to help the counties that need the help right now, especially. So hope that answered your question.
Absolutely, thank you. And yeah, we'll echo. Worked on a lot of NACo's worked on a lot of partnerships with NATO and county regional collaboration and partnership. Would certainly echo that, as economies don't stop at county lines. And Commissioner Summers may have to take you up on getting out to Box Elder County for a visit sometime whenever it's safe and appropriate.
Come on out. We'd love to see you.
Trey or Christopher, perhaps maybe if you guys could talk a little bit or mention any first good steps for an elected official to maybe kickstart this whole process, how to have my county engage with the NASA Small Business Office.
Trey, if you would.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The first step is pick up the phone and call them. Quite honestly, have their staff call the small business office. The leader of our small business office, his name is David Brock. Chris, you probably paste his email in there. Extremely responsive, and the office is set up for that reason, to help get small businesses involved. So I would either email David or call, and his staff will be there to help folks get started engaging with NASA. And if it's not with Marshall Space Flight Center, he can get you to the closest field center where you can do work. And it all really depends on your NAIC codes and what services you provide and how they're applicable to the centers. But I would definitely reach out to David. There's his email. He has won the best small business office in NASA for the past 6 years. He's amazing, and we'll help you out any way you can.
Great, thank you, Trey. Yeah, we dropped his email there in the chat, and as I mentioned at the top of the call as well, we do have the September webinar from the Marshall Flight Center recorded and posted in the chat as well that folks might want to reference for more information on that as well.
Well, hey, with
time for a question or two more, folks have any last minute questions? Sorry to interrupt there, Christopher. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I was just going to say now's a good time for any other questions. We'll let them come through. But quickly, on behalf of NASA, we're just going to take everyone to thank you for joining us. Thank all our speakers and the great staff at NACo for helping make these virtual engagement opportunities possible. Thank each of you all. So I'm going to mute my mic. Jack, I'm going to toss the presentation back to you.
Great, thank you, Christopher. So I'm not seeing any final questions come through the chat. You guys have our information and the presenter's information, so please feel free to reach out with any follow-ups. Want to, of course, thank you all for taking the time to join us today, and definitely thank you again to Trey and Christopher, our NASA representatives, for joining and presenting really inspiring and future-thinking material. And thank you, Commissioner Summers, for joining from Box Elder County, Utah. Great to have your county perspective there and such a nexus to this topic. We do look forward to hosting continual virtual programming in this partnership with NASA, and you'll be able to find that when scheduled at the NACo Knowledge Network that I mentioned at the top of the call. That's naco.org/education-events, or you can simply go to naco.org, click on the upcoming events tab. Of the upcoming events, I did want to go ahead and flag while I have you all here one upcoming, the NACo's Luck Rack Virtual Symposium. That is, if you're not familiar, the Large Urban County Caucus and the Rural Action Caucus coming together for virtual symposium on December 10th. The link has just been dropped in the chat. We look forward to hopefully having you join that and engage in some great educational content in December 10th. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the week. Again, feel free to reach out to us with any follow-up. I hope you all continue to be well and safe. Thanks for all you do on the local front lines, and we can adjourn today's virtual meeting a little early today. Thanks and take care.
Thanks, you guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe.
Be safe.
Take care.
Thank you.